Judge, I will recuse myself. But on this subject, first, I'm a Delaware. I'm also a Cherokee. We paid for our way to be a Cherokee. I'm also a Native American. So I think the eagle feather is a very highly religious piece within the American natives. And I think we have to support our fellow tribes in that respect and accept their religion as well as our own. Just wanted to make sure that we're not just Delaware, we're Native Americans, and we need to stand together and support each other.
Well, thank you, Charles. I'm not a Native American. I'm an American Indian. I just don't.
I come from India. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't either. They're called Eastern Indians. We're called American Indians.
The reason we're called Indians is because when the Europeans got here, they thought they were in India.
Of course, that's true. But we're still American Indians because they've named our country America.
But that doesn't make me an Indian. I'm Native American.
Well, so were your white grandparents that came over on the boat.
No, they're not in the same respect that I am. Well,
They became Native Americans.
Yes, my grandparents are Native American. But I feel like I'm a Lenape. I'm not a Delaware, because I mean, we lived on the Delaware River. And then we've kind of gotten named by Delaware throughout time. But I'm a Lenape. I'm also a Cherokee by adoption. We paid for our way into that. I'm also a Native American. That's all I have to say.
Well, see, it's all about semantics. It just
Thank
gets
you,
in.
Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
And Charles, thank you, but you know what? That doesn't mean you shouldn't speak to me, because I have the same blood you do.
That's right.
Okay.
Please.
I have a little bit of a problem with the judge. When I walked in today, he says to me, "I'm not going to talk to you." Here's a judge and that's supposed to be neutral in relationship to whatever. I was called, like Annette had already said, I was summoned to go down to the hearing today. I didn't testify, but I got summoned to come down there to give my, to give my testimony. But when I got down there, the attorney for I guess opposed to the Hayden Griffith, I said that you will not testify, Dee, but Annette, you will. But I want to make it perfectly clear, I was summoned down there, not to let this judge know, who's supposed to be neutral in all situations. He comes up to me and says, "I'm not talking to you because you were down there at that hearing today, I assume." And I asked him 2 or 3 times, why in the world would he have such an opinion when he didn't know anything about the facts? I was summoned down there today for whatever reasons. But I will also challenge anybody on this court or anyone in this room, if in fact we're going to have our Delaware Days and we're going to have our family, whether they call it family
Delaware Night,
Thursday night, okay? How many in this room can sing the songs and do the traditions of our ancestors there Thursday night? I don't know if any of you can, and there's probably not any. I asked the judge whether he can or not, and he certainly can't.
My kids can get out there and do it too.
Excuse me?
My kids can get out there and do those songs.
They can sing the songs?
Yeah.
Sure. Come on. I watched your, well, I'm not,
I think that, yes, I think that this
I want to clear this up. We didn't have, in 1945, our ancestors decided to not have our big house ceremony, okay? They used a turkey feather in there, as a matter of fact. when I started dancing, I used a hawk fan, and there's still a lot of people today use the turkey fan. But I have eagle feathers that I use in tribal powwows. There is not one fan that will be on Thursday evening that they wear or have, hopefully, because we do not have, our religion is they put it away at 25 or 24, you know. And so what my point is that when we sing those songs and so forth, those are in recognition of our ancestors, of what the traditions they passed down to us, okay? And it is important that we do, we keep the traditions going in this regard. So I have a little bit of a problem when one of the judges come up and say, I'm not talking to you anymore, because what he said is that because you can't support the other Delaware people. He didn't even know that I'd been summoned to come down there, and I didn't testify. And I have a big problem with that.
Former Chief Gadget,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
You bet.
Why did Caney Valley School choose to subpoena you and Ned?
Well, I would assume that I don't know why, other than the Caney Valley superintendent calls me because Tim Bart, apparently he called me one night and had asked that I read the newspaper and the article in there, and I said, I haven't read it, but I will read it, because we got a paper late. And but the superintendent called me and asked me a few questions, and I said, our religion, as far as using the eagle feathers, stopped in
1924.
24, okay, our big house ceremony, religion. And he said, well, fine. He asked me a couple other questions, didn't pertain to anything. And apparently he notified the attorney, and the attorney called me, and I said, I'm not interested in getting involved with this situation at all, okay? And he asked me if I had eagle feathers. I said, yeah, I got eagle feathers. When in the late 70s, I made out an application permit to have eagle feathers, and I have them. As a matter of fact, I've given them to our girls because they've earned them, just like Hayden has, and so forth. And that was it. I didn't know that I was going to get summoned. I just told him I do not want to be involved with this whatsoever, one way or the other. And he said, fine.
He said if we didn't come, he would subpoena us, and he did.
Yeah,
And it was because of Tim Bart. Tim Bart knew that superintendent down there, and Tim Bart is a good friend of ours. He's in the Bartlesville School District. He's the athletic director.
Let me ask you one other thing. If some school told you that you were from now forth prohibited,
did what now? What did you say to me?
if some school told you that you were prohibited from singing our traditional Lenape songs, would you abide by it?
No, I would not. I'm talking about songs versus carrying an eagle feather, a religious, and they attach the two together. That's what I'm trying to say to you, is that they attach religion and Freedom of the Information Act, and I've taught on that at Wesley. And so I believe that we need to stand up for our rights and relationship to Indian people. Our due process they haven't given us our due process, in my opinion. Okay, I still think that we don't want to go burn things down like some of the other races do, but in my opinion, I don't think as a people, the Indian people, I think that they've passed us over. But do you know that there are certain tribes, like the Potawatomi up there in Kansas, they don't even allow the women to even touch an eagle feather. And there's other tribes here in Oklahoma, but I would agree. I think that we have been slighted in some cases, but you know, and we didn't get into talking to the superintendent or the attorney one way or the other. I just said that I have no interest in pursuing this, and he said, "Well, you would if we
Subpoenaed.
you know, if we called upon you, subpoenaed you to come," and so that's exactly what happened.
Another thing, you know what, Indians have won. We have won the battle. Our tribes are, so many tribes in Oklahoma are so wealthy with gaming money. And what one of my points is, they're not going to rock the boat unless they can throw big bucks behind it. Because if public opinion ever gets against the Indian, we are a defeated nation as far as the federal government is concerned. And we've made these rights, they can be taken away from Americans and from American Indians just as quickly as they were put in place. And sometimes, I know our ancestors, they kept a low profile because they were afraid they were going to get moved again. And that today, the Indians have won without saying a word, in that we own so much of the, they get so much money in. Our tribe isn't enjoying that well, but these other tribes are. And they have a pretty big stick. And I think that they know they're well off. They could almost run Oklahoma. They own probably the employment, the jobs. It's just an incredible amount of advantage that our tribes have gotten over these years. I'm grateful to be an American Indian.
Well, I just want to say one thing, Chief, is that I believe in Native American rights, okay? And I'll go to my grave believing that we haven't got our just due, okay? But there are certain things that you just have to go.
Yeah. Is there any further discussion on this? I can't see well enough to see if anybody's hands up. Would the secretary please read the title? And now therefore be it resolved of Resolution 2015-32.
A resolution of the Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to support the Bureau of Indian Affairs rule for the Indian Child Welfare Act. We need to fix that typo, Bureau. Yep. And well, Bureau is really hard to spell for even a computer. So whereas the Delaware Tribal Council recognizes the Indian Child Welfare Act, or ICWA, was passed in 1978 to protect the best interest of Indian children in adoption and foster care cases, whereas the commentators have asserted, however, that it has not reached its full potential due largely to ineffective or inconsistent implementation in some cases, whereas to establish a new subpart to regulations implement ICWA at 25 CFR 23 to address Indian child welfare proceedings in state court, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA, has proposed regulations to increase the protections of Indian children, strengthen compliance, and enhance necessary procedures for comment of the ICWA law. Quote, this proposed rule would add a new subpart to the Department of Interior's Department regulations implementing the Indian Child Welfare Act to improve ICWA implementation by state courts and child welfare agencies. These regulations complement recently published guidelines for state courts and agencies in Indian child custody proceedings, reflect recommendations made by Attorney General's Advisory Committee on the American Indian and Alaska Native Children exposed to violence, and address significant developments in the jurisprudence since ICWA's inception. Now therefore it be resolved, the Delaware Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians does hereby support the BIA proposed regulations in effort to reach ICWA's full potential.
I make a motion we adopt this resolution 2015-32.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt resolution 2015-32. Is there discussion?
Nikki, are we joining, is this a joint part that all tribes are supporting this? Is this what, yeah, that's what I thought.
Is there further discussion?
I'd call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Dr. Michael, I apologize that you have to read so many resolutions.
That's okay. Number 33, a resolution of the Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to contract with a facilitator to assist with vision planning. Note the proposed one had a name on it. We went ahead and took that name off because we're still discussing this. And then we're going to go to the whereases. Well, we can just go to now. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Delaware Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians wants to negotiate a contract with the facilitator, and that's still, the cost is still in here. It should not be in here, to assist with the development of a vision plan. So I think we need to table this, but we could discuss the options at this point if we want to.
I would agree.
I agree.
Support that.
I wanted to ask a question, Nikki. You said that you would not facilitate this particular vision plan because you're on the council. If we limit it to the council only, what if we put it, all of our directors and others that we see fit to whatever that is, then would you consider it?
Just a recap of previous conversations that we had before regarding our vision planning session.
I missed that last one.
Well, this was a discussion that was prior to our even scheduling those actual meetings.
Oh.
We had discussed bringing in, once we got to cover each one of our council members' visions, priorities, and goals, then we would bring in the tribal manager and the directors of each department to basically work together in devising those plans for each department. So that is already in place. We've already covered that and established that that is how we are going to move forward
I wasn't aware of it.
with the plan.
It's a really difficult situation because as a tribal leader, I have to be involved in the conversation on the side that gives the input. If I'm a facilitator, I'm up there just strictly as a facilitator and I can't give my input, and so I'm not, I think we'd be missing that key component. I mean, the business part of me says, yes, it's screaming, yeah, I'll do it. But the part that says tribal leader in me is going, I just can't.
She would have to play both sides of the table.
Well, either that or give playing since there's 6 more other tribal leaders there at the table. You know, I mean, that was just another option. I never did hear the whole story because I was thinking, I don't know, 4,000 may not cover it. I don't know. And to get the right person and the proper person.
Right, I think we need to scratch that.
I know, yeah, I agree with that. But what I meant was, obviously, you don't need travel expenses or you don't need hotel.
I'm here.
And, because you're here. And I don't know if this is just brainstorming, but we're gonna have, the way I read it, we're poor. I mean, and like Michelle said, I wasn't aware of what she said, what you just told me. But I have, and I'm not aware of how poor we are, but I'm picking it up, definitely. And I don't know, maybe we need to talk about it someplace else, or some other time. We have,
Tribal manager Curtis Zuniga used to wish to address this resolution.
Well, it appears you are tabling it, which should, and that's probably good. It takes a little more discussion, but with respect to Annette, I do want to offer some suggestions. First of all, it would be best to have an outside facilitator, one who is trained with the experience, with a work plan that helps you achieve what the objective is and helps keep people on point. I have no disrespect for any of you, but do you just see your previous discussion on the feathers, how the discussion went out all over the place, and you lose sight of what you're there for? A good facilitator will keep you on point to achieve your objective, which is, after a length of time, you're going to walk away with whatever it is, a strategic plan, a vision plan, something. And it's like having an experienced bus driver who knows how to drive the bus and who knows how to take a map and get you to where you want, and then everybody else gets on the bus, right? And that's the tribal council. Everyone's opinions need to be heard, but it needs to be organized because you got to stay within a time frame. Then all of your department heads the same way. If one of us is busy trying to facilitate this, we don't get to give our input. And so I would really encourage you to find a way to make the investment of tribal funds to achieve a vision statement and a strategic plan. Then you can sell that to your tribal members and get behind all of the policies, all of the resolutions, and all of the things that you're trying to do. I really feel if you do this well, it'll be worth the investment. And I will cite the example of the energy strategic planning. Fortunately, we were able to get some outside funds to help pay for this to happen. But we had a wonderful three-day session. And it really produced some things. We're actually putting them to use down in the housing program. So when you further deliberate this resolution, I do encourage you to come up with the resources and the people that you can decide who is the right person to be your bus driver and help you achieve your destination.
Oh, we're having discussions.
Do we need to vote on the table?
Well, a motion been made to table. Does that require a vote?
I'll second the motion to table this resolution.
And seconded. All in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye. And just for the record, Curtis, like Leslie taught me how to facilitate, so I am experienced at doing it, and I have gone to outside organizations, but what you're talking about is when you're on the inside, definitely you can't, it's like going and being what do they say, you can't go to your own town and be a preacher. I mean, it's like you're doing you're not as accepted, plus you have your own inside, preconceptions of everything. But it's amazing, you can go to another town, another tribe, and you can be objective. And that's why I just hesitate so much. But I said if I could, I'd certainly do it. I just don't see any way of being able to do it.
you're emotionally involved.
I'm too emotionally involved.
Well, not that we ever get emotionally involved.
No, that's especially this side of the table. Are we done?
I was told that a Robert Johnson architectural firm was going to be here this evening. Is there Robert Johnson in the audience? I don't actually know how that got on the agenda.
What was he gonna be here for?
I assume he was gonna be here trying to, talk us into using his services.
For what?
Well, he's
Oh,
an
just
architectural
in
firm.
general? You mean in just general or something specific?
No,
Oh,
just, I assume that. I hadn't actually talked to the man
oh.
myself. And I don't know who did talk to him, actually.
Do you know it?
No,
No, I don't know that name. He's not local.
On that note, yeah, I didn't know anything about it. No one ran this by me at all. I'm the secretary. No one runs anything by me. No one runs the meetings by me. No one, I mean, you really need
Was there
to.
supposed to be somebody speaking to us tonight, presenting to us?
No, well, I'm just in general speaking as the secretary. I would like for people to start running things by me. Meeting dates, times, whatever. I'm the last to know. And that's
Well-
not how it's supposed to work when you're the secretary.
Well, you also wanted all the resolutions to be in a week early, and they come in the
That
next.
was for the staff, so that the staff could have theirs in and be able to copy them and do it. As long as I know they're coming, then that's,
Oh,
you know,
they
so,
don't have to be-
so sometimes it's been impossible for someone to get a resolution in by that Wednesday or Friday. So say it's Jimmy,
I don't know.
and you know, he's the, and he says, Nick, I've got a resolution that needs to be in. That, it's a placeholder, so that I make a mental note. That's how that's been working.
Oh,
I kind of agree with Nikki. I don't kind of agree, I do agree with Nikki, and we just need to work on a protocol to be followed. This is, Benita's the treasurer, you're the chairman, the chief, and the assistant chief. We need to work on our protocols, and it'll take some time. As somebody says, it's a learning experience,
Lessons learned.
lessons learned.
All week.
do I hear other new business?
did we get Curtis's report?
We just get the report.
We didn't. Curtis, did we get your report or not? I never,
It should be in right the front of the report
oh, it
section.
should be, okay. Then I can read it later. It is.
It is.
Curtis, would you care to address the council about your report?
I'll do it quickly. First of all, if you'd look through your packet, my written report is there. But let me just try to cherry pick out of here the most pertinent things. The enrollment working group, we had our first meeting on May 4th, working with the staff of the enrollment department to review some of the issues that are going to require finalization and presentation of disenrollment procedures and also any amendments to the Enrollment Act. Our next meeting is scheduled on June 2nd. You all, and by the way, at the end of my report, there's also something on June 2nd, and that's going to be over here on the south side is the groundbreaking for the child care facility, and they want everybody there for pictures and all of that business. So that's at 2 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock, Councilman Young and Councilwoman Ketchum are going to join the enrollment staff and myself and continue to work on this. I'm calling it an enrollment working group, doing a workshop. Okay, the Cherokee Nation was in here today, and they'll be here tomorrow, working on the audit for our housing funds. This is the annual subrecipient monitoring. I thought it went well today. Jean's nodding her head too, and they'll be finishing up tomorrow. we'll wait for the outcome, but I thought it went well, and their reaction was, was pretty good. Delaware Water Gap, the culture camp. That was the other part of what Bryce had presented to us months ago. I have Cece Big Goose here from our housing department. She has agreed to be the chaperone, and Bryce will be here tomorrow. We're going to sit down and start working out all the details. We've got one kid committed. We've got likely a couple more. We're recruiting over at the Boys and Girls Club. I really do think, Chief, that we can pull this off, but I'm going to give you a heads up. I'm going to be coming back to this tribal council, and I'm going to be turning to both Bryce and to our Culture Preservation Committee. If Cece goes as a chaperone, unless she wants to burn up all of her leave, she's going to have to clock out as a housing employee. But I've worked it out with Ron and with Mike Taylor. She's not going to be penalized at all. As a matter of fact, we're encouraging her to do this. But I'm going to seek some other tribal funds to compensate her in the form of an honorarium for being gone that long. But all of her travel expense and staying at the cabin and food and all of that kind of stuff will be paid for by the National Park Service. I'm just giving you a progress report, not asking for any action at the moment. But I feel very encouraged, and I really am grateful to Cece for stepping up and being willing. I did ask Bruce Martin, by the way, but he declined. He said he wasn't going to be able to. So that's where we are right now. And the next thing on my report, under Grant Steering Committee, I had a lengthy conversation yesterday, Nate, with one of the program staff at AmeriCorps with the National Civilian Community Corps. We went over the timeline. We've got a concept paper due August 14th, so we got a couple months to get it in. And I just had about a 30-minute conversation with her, told her about some of the ideas that I have in mind for projects. She said, this is just exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. She said, work with me, I'll help you get your concept paper looking good for review. If we present a concept paper and they like it, then they will give us the full application. And then we will have until September the 4th to submit the full application. Then we wait for a couple weeks, and then if we get awarded, then they will deploy their team starting October 31st. It's a team of 8 to 12 people for up to 6 weeks with some time off for Thanksgiving and that sort of thing. So I was very encouraged by the telephone call, and I'm going to proceed just as you have, the two of you and Benita have encouraged in our Grant Steering Committee meeting. So I really feel good about this. There's some great potential here. And I've also had meetings both with, talked with Boys and Girls Club already, and the housing program, and they're firmly supportive of this too. They'll buy into it. Tribal operations, on May 4th, Jimmy Johnson, I requested Jimmy to go up and attend a Caney City Council meeting, and indeed they have revealed plans for a water line easement crossing on the east side of our boundary line of our property up in Caney. So we really do need to get a discussion going with Mayor Carol McClure up there in Caney. I hear she's going to be, kind of making her own tour and talking to neighbors, but as the Delaware tribe, I would encourage us to at least begin a discussion to find out how firm the plans are and what their timeline is. And of course, just to make good relations with the city government. Memorial Day is coming up. I've got the Delaware Cemetery, what they call on the 2 mile, the Lenape Cemetery out behind Sue Cates' house in Copan, and I worked with the Washington County Commissioners to get Silver Lake Cemetery. All those will be cleaned up and ready for visitors on Memorial Day. As Annette reported, our 12-passenger vans, I've got the registration, title, and tags all done through Cherokee Nation. No cost to the Delaware tribe. They belong to us. Those are our vans. We didn't give them to Cherokee Nation. But we got a Cherokee Nation tag, and they did not charge us. I got the seals put on the door, and I'm setting up getting the retractable steps mounted. They'll get it done during the first week of June, and then it should be fully ready to go for transporting elders. It's not reserved exclusively for elders. However, when these elders need to get on there and get transported around, it's going to be a lot easier when these steps get put on, thanks to this anonymous donation. We got some new copy machines installed in our 3 buildings here on the campus. Also during the last month, we discovered that there's an old abandoned underground gas well over here on the other side of that berm, way over here on the northwest side of the field. There was some seepage going on. We brought an inspector out from the Corporation Commission. He downgraded the kind of threat concern that we had. He just said, you know, make sure you've got some kind of little barrier around it. You might paint it a bright color to make sure the mowing tractors don't try to run over it or anything. And, you know, we're going to try to see if we can get some funds to do something about it. But he said this has been going on for years, and it's not like you've got, you know, natural gas or something that is, you know, presenting a major hazard right now. But we did get it inspected. The pond walkway bids are being finalized. The report I got, we expect construction to get underway sometime in the next 30 to 45 days.
Does that include that fountain?
I do not believe a fountain was a part of it. It was upgrading all of that area where that little turtle garden is, though. They were going to completely change and upgrade all of that and make it more accessible and a larger paved area. We did, Tribal Council approved last time the janitor or housekeeping position, part-time position. That is filled now, and we are operational there. The housing department, as you know, we lost one of our staff. I sat down with the staff. They put together a plan that did not require hiring a person to simply replace that function, but to upgrade our part-timer in Chelsea. And they feel, and I believe and support them all the way, and it was also approved by the Personnel Committee, to just go ahead and take our part-time employee in Chelsea, make her a full-time person, send a lot of work here using our electronic conveyances, and then she'll just come up here one day a week. And I believe we can get the job done, we can do it more economical, and be more productive with this proposed plan. Now, we're going to give it a try for 30 days, and if it works, then we're going to really take off with it. But the whole staff was enthusiastic about planning this out and making a presentation to the Personnel Committee. So we're going to give it a shot, and I support them all the way. Under your Child Support Services, I've been serving as your acting director, and I will say that I've scheduled 2 training conferences to attend. The first one will be next week in Norman, and then there'll be another one June 8th through the 11th. Been working with our consultants, Indian Collaborative Consultants, and I've also been already looking at some resumes of people who have applied for jobs and trying to recruit some people that will likely fill these other 2 jobs when they come open and we're ready to do the job announcements. We have staff training, staff-wide, that Mike Taylor, our Human Resources Manager, will conduct starting next week, and it's on professionalism. Everything from putting out a good work product, providing good customer service, your appearance as an employee, and teamwork with your other staff members. That's scheduled for next week.
Curtis, I want to add too that we encourage any council members that can attend that.
We want to also include that it's open for trust board members to attend as well.
Correct.
And by the way, we've got Boomer Holtz with Holtz Electric come out here and figure out what in the world is going on with these microphones.
Yeah.
Chief, I just put this in the looking ahead portion of my report. Of course, we have Delaware Powwow coming up this weekend. I know that you plan to distribute camp rations. You've been working with Alan already to make sure we get that done. The tribe did donate funds. I've also already got confirmed, Jack and the committee and Elaine, that they've been receiving some of the donations from the Delaware tribe. And remind you, a couple of our staff members, Walter and Jimmy, are on the powwow committee. So I think we're showing more than adequate support for the Delaware powwow. and encourage everyone here, bring your families up. Last thing I wanted to report, Chief, was something that occurred in the last couple of days. I found it very troubling. Sunday night I heard that there was a fire over here across the street from the elder housing, that big hill up in there. Some of our elders spotted some flames up there. And actually Kay's son, Tommy Sunday, was over there, and he went up there and chased after some boys. He and his dog chased after some boys and ran them out of there. The next day, yesterday, about 5:30, I get a phone call. Curtis, there's all kinds of smoke. You're the one that called me, Benita. All kinds of smoke going on over there. She steps out and she says, I see flames. So I went over there with Mike and Ron. We actually drove back in there, and sure enough, great big old burn pile. I'm talking about huge. It would fill up 1/3 of this room up to here. Burn pile. It was on fire. Called the fire department. They came around. It was all muddy over there. They'd drive all the way around the other side and come back this way. They got up in there and they used their hoses and put out the fire. All right, came back here, went back to my office, continuing to work, came over here, we're singing a few songs Monday. I get a phone call from Luann. Curtis, there's a big old fire going on. I thought, what in the world? We just put it out. I walked back over there. Sure enough, it was bigger than the first one. And it was in a completely different spot of that, on that burn pile. I called the fire department again. They came out. We sat there and we talked and we looked at this thing and said, let's just let it burn. Fire department said, I'm not worried about it. It's green. There's a lot of water and everything. Let's just let that burn down. So I kept an eye on it till about 11:30 last night, till it burned down. And so, you know, everything seemed okay. Then I'll be darned if 10 minutes after 5, right before this council meeting, I get it. Curtis, there's smoke going on over there. What? I look out there, and sure enough, but it wasn't where I was at last night. So I started looking, and I'm thinking, I've had enough of this. So I just dashed down there. And I snuck through the woods up. I caught 2 teenage boys starting another fire. Right before this meeting.
Yeah, I seen you and Johnny looking out that direction.
So I made them put out the fire. I've got their names. I'll do a little follow-up tomorrow. But I sure let them know I do not want that kind of behavior on our tribal property. And I'll do a little follow-up, but I'm going to have to keep constant vigil. We put out a letter to our residents through Ron that if they see any kind of unauthorized activity going on, any fire, if it's after hours, if you can't get hold of one of us, call 911. And but we're going to have to keep an eye on this. I'm going to try to tamp this down quick. I sure don't want to come back out here on Saturday night during the powwow and try to chase down some firebug or something.
How old were those boys?
They look to be about 14.
Did you scare them? Did you give them the stink eye?
Yeah, they were.
The fear into it.
The fear of Curtis.
They knew I wasn't happy.
Good.
So,
Do you think they started the other ones? Do you think they started the prior?
Well, I accused them of that. Of course, they're saying, well, I know it looks like that, but I said, one of them, okay, let me go a little further. I won't name names at this. One of them is a Delaware tribal member, Chief. He tried to, here's my card, I'm an Indian. He said, we were just doing some ceremony. I said, you ain't doing no ceremony here. You don't know what you're doing. If you want to learn about ceremony, you go up to the powwow this weekend and you seek out some elders. You don't know how to run ceremonies, and this isn't a ceremony. Yeah, I'm sorry to raise my voice to you, council members, but that's kind of like the way I was talking to those boys. I was upset, but I sure enough caught them red-handed. And I ran them off. I made them put out the fire first by hand, you know, with dirt, you know, digging dirt with their hands. I made them put it out. I said, I don't want to see you around here anymore again. I got their names, and you know, if they really want to learn ceremonies, we'll show them the right way. But I told them I do not want that kind of behavior going on our tribal property. scaring elders by starting fires around here. So that's kind of where we are on that. And I don't like running through the woods in my sport coat, my nice shoes, but, you know.
The mud.
Anyway,
Scout.
I try to do it all
Go
for you,
get the
Chief.
enemy.
Anyway, here's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank goodness for all the rain in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or we might have had a problem yesterday and today. Do I hear any additional new business? If not, I'd like to make an announcement. Well, let me start from the beginning. If anybody here sees me walking from Highway 75 down to the powwow grounds of Friday afternoon, don't stop and give me a ride. And the next announcement is the veterans are gonna have another auction at the Brooks Camp on Saturday. And also, nobody forget our potluck supper Thursday evening, which will be held at Ford Griggs Camp. I think it's 7:30.
6:30,
I'm sorry, 6:30.
and dancing at 8:30.
And on top of that, the rations that Curtis mentioned will be handed out at the Brooks Camp right after the veterans auction on Saturday. And just so everybody knows, it's not the tribe that paid for those rations. A friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, offered to pay for half of them if I'd match his contribution. And it's on me and him. So everybody enjoyed the powwow, and I hope to see you all there. Is there any further new business?
I would say we do have executive session.
Oh, yes.
Is there anything that we need to cover? There is? Okay,
Yeah, we do. We have one item. It should be very, very short though.
okay.
We've got a motion then, or I need a motion to go into executive session. Dick,
Yeah, Chief, I do want to mention one thing that Curtis didn't mention, and I appreciate you saying the potluck supper on Thursday. We will start singing at 8:30, and with a bunch of singers there to participate and sing some of the old songs. So I just wanted to remind you, Chief, of that.
we really appreciate the singers that do
Yeah.
sing on Thursday nights and the Delaware days.
Bring your cans. I don't
Pardon?
want to be the only one out there.
Bring your cans. Sure.
Shells. Make sure the women bring their shells, is what I was saying.
Yeah. All of the women that have shells, please bring them for stomp dancing. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I move, we do. Although, am I coming? I make that motion.
Call for question.
Question's been called on going into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And it's 7:12.
Call the council back to order after the executive session. Do I hear any motions? Pardon?
We have this big, nice
I'm sorry. 7:33.
I would like to state a motion that we fill the position for the child support enforcement program with Curtis Zuniga, and that we open the position for operations manager internally.
Let's take that.
Call for the question.
The motion been made and seconded, and the question called on putting Curtis Zuniga in charge of the child enforcement program and opening the position of tropical business manager for publication or consideration.
Yeah, it'll be internal first, Chief.
Internal
Right.
first. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Chief, if I may, I've had some discussion about this, and I just want to state for the record, Chief, that I have pledged my full cooperation during however lengthy interim period is there. I'll continue to do what I'm doing now, but the idea is ultimately to pass the baton to someone else, but to maintain the continuity and the rhythm that we've got going on, and try not to lose anything, and then pick up child support and move it forward rather directly, because we're behind schedule. But I'll continue to put in long hours, and I'd be glad to do it. I appreciate your support.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Curtis. Do I hear any further motions or business?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, do I hear a second?
Second.
We're adjourned.